Greetings and salutations. It is I, Johnny, on another episode of the Who the Heaven is I podcast, episode number 22, Thursday, 0509 2K24. This episode, I've entitled it The Perspective Collective. What does it mean to have perspective? Well, for me, it's your point of view, right? It's the way you see things, and I find myself personally to be someone that doesn't always stay grounded and attached just to my own point of view. Believe it or not, I actually go outside my POV just to go outside and see how other people might be feeling. And I put myself in their shoes and I sit there and I think, I wonder how they're feeling in this situation based upon what I know about the person. And to be honest with you, you never really know exactly what's going through someone's heads and their perspective, but you can kind of look at their actions, see their responses, see their history, and especially if it's someone you've lived with, behaviors, tendencies, all that stuff, knowing, their whole history and what they've gone through. And that helps me reframe a lot of my thought process. I wasn't always like this. I mean, there's a thing called ego that sometimes, as we come out of the womb, we come into this world and we get given a name, and we have parents, and we have our environment and our surroundings and our people around us, and we get forged into quote unquote who we are. And sometimes, we find comfort in self, meaning, we look at the world as a me-centric world. I mean, I did that for many years, where I was always thinking, okay, well, what does Johnny want to do? What's going to work for Johnny? But there's only so far you can get if you're just looking through your own eyes. Because the way I look at this universe, we're just one big Lego puzzle type thing. And finding connectivity and being amenable to change has allowed me personally to grow, to foster better relationships, different connections that I would never have been able to have had I stuck in just Johnny's world. And so it's challenging sometimes. I'm going through some stuff right now, and this isn't gonna be like a Deborah Downer type episode, but it's gonna be some realness, because that's the whole reason I started this podcast, was for me just to kind of throw it out there to the world, like, this is who Johnny is, this is what Johnny's going through, and maybe maybe you can find some different perspective and give me some advice on things because you've gone through a similar situation. Or maybe, what I'm saying might resonate with you, and we can be amigos, friends, compadres, just going through stuff together. Or maybe you might even say, hey, wow, I never thought about it like that. This is very useful to me. So, I mean, that's the main reason I'm doing this podcast. This isn't a just me thing. If it was a just me thing, I would just record the stuff and just kind of put it into my archives and go back and look at it when I'm old and gray, or whatever. But I really think there's a power in really being real, and then sharing it with the world, being vulnerable. I know this episode is probably, it will definitely trigger some people, because I've had conversations with certain people and they don't see things through my experiences and my point of view. They analyze my situation based on their own situation, not knowing the full depth and complexity of my situation. Um, and even though these people or people may know me and know my core values and beliefs, and Johnny's just a dude just trying to do good things. Actually, I feel that I'm doing good things, but then that's where the interpretation gets called out, where if I'm doing things that I think is good, um, and not just for myself, but for the greater good of all, and that's something that maybe isn't good for you or another person, then they might say, "Ooh, Johnny Bad Dude." But here's the biggest problem with Johnny Bad Dude. Most people won't kindly give me feedback and say, "Hey," or even ask what I'm doing, or if they have a doubt, they'll just go to their own judgments, make their own decisions, talk about it with other people, and then there I am, in my situation where, quite frankly, I'm in a situation where I could use some help, some assistance, because it's a tough situation to navigate through. I mean, specifically, what I'm going through is I'm in a separation in the process of divorce, but it feels very one sided. And at any point where I try to claim some sort of balance, um, the other party involved shuts down, gives ultimatums, uh, starts name calling, and says, "This is what it is. That's it. Respect me." But, and this is definitely why the marriage failed. Um, it's a two-way street. A marriage is a partnership for better. It's not for better or worse. For better and worse, it should really read, because what, and I don't want to dive too much into the soundtrack and movie I'm working on, Future '86, that we live in a disposable society. But let's be quite honest. Relationships have become disposable. Now, I mean, is Johnny trying to hold on to a value system? And not that I'm trying to be some sort of noble knight, you know, um, but I'm trying to. When you get married, especially when you have kids, there's a lot on the line there. And if you're single out there and you're yet to find that partner, I'm gonna put this out as a huge PSA. Please, slowly advance, because I think that all too often, people get married, and this is my situation specifically, and everything was cool, and I really think she's a fabulous person. And still, even though I'm going through what feels like living hell, and I don't even know what hell, I mean, I couldn't even imagine what hell is, right? But I feel like that's what I'm going through. And it's kind of the reason why I call this a podcast, The Who the Heaven Is I, because for the past 4 years, I've been living in literal hell trying to negotiate and find middle ground. But when you're dealing with a party that doesn't seem to get outside their own point of view, and when you peacefully, and I, if you want to message me, I'll show you my text feeds. I mean, listen, straight up, it's I'm asking kindly, "Hey, what's going on with this?" And we had a loose agreement set in place for the summer, and then all of a sudden now it's being modified, and straight up, like the biggest, you know, you know, challenge I have right now is that we are the parents, and this is the crux of the divorce. Our youngest kind of with my partner. I don't even know what to call my separated spouse, because it doesn't feel like a partnership. When the youngest whines, cries, she doesn't want to deal with it, so she gives in, or she kind of just. My oldest says she goes in her room and just closes the door, and I'm like, that is a recipe for disaster. And when you've been to psychologists and counselors that have told you, "Hey, please nip that in the bud," and then what I'm trying to do what the counselor said and try to create some sort of boundaries and and grow the child, raise the child, not just feed and shelter the child, but you know, morally um, and spiritually trying to get the child to understand that, hey, there's some rules. You can't just always have things your way. Even when you go to Burger King, like there's things I want and I just can't always have it my way. And although yesterday was Whopper Wednesday, and $3 Whoppers or Impossible Whoppers, pretty much a good thing. So if I haven't spent a year with my kids because and I'm gonna not get into the details of the whole thing because out of respect for the spouse, but to give her space to allow her to have full autonomy over the kids, to do what I did for many years, which was be the sole provider. And yes, I know there are people out there going to say, "Oh, but she was, she did stuff too." Okay, that is true to a certain degree, but it's only if you knew the complexity of our relationship, it was, I was, and this is me being real. I feel like I was just the money guy paying for the bills, and there really wasn't much love in the relationship. It was like the business of parenting, and I did it, what I think was the right thing, just to take it, for better and worse, because at her core she is a wonderful person, and there was a point where we did have love. I don't know where it went, and it's something that I've come to grips that we'll probably never find again, and that's just the way it is. But when you ask the kid, "Hey, your father wants to take you, for the summer. Do you want to go?" "No, I don't want to go, Mom. I'm gonna stay here with you." Because why? Well, because she's gonna let him play video games all summer long, and that's what he's even told me. He's even said straight up, "Well, Tyler, you don't run the show, you gotta understand there's rules and boundaries, and when you're grounded, you're grounded." And he laughed and was like, "Oh, Mom just takes my charger," but and he trailed off because he probably finds a way. He probably has a secret stash of power cords somewhere. And if I tried to explain this to her, then she thinks, "Oh, don't control me and don't tell me how to live my house." But this is the challenge being a divorced, separated parent. That the kids are not possessions, but we both created them. We both have, rights to grow and raise them, and there's no middle ground. And as much as like I said, I was trying to peacefully understand, hey, well, why are we asking the kid to come and spend time with dad? Shouldn't it be like, hey, you're going to spend time with your dad? Like that to me is a fair thing. And then I even conceded because here's the reality: if he were to spend time with me, and at this point, I miss my boy so much. I don't want to fight with him, so I just let him have his way, and then maybe I'll go back down and do something. I don't know, because it's just crazy, because I don't believe just giving your kid everything they want is the way to raise a kid in modern society. And it seems, and this is from my observation, many people that I've talked to, that's kind of what they do with their kid. They just, appease them. The kids, oh, you have to change your whole life for your kids and give the kids what they want. But that, what does that say to your kids? You're going to become some entitled kid and just get what you want how you want it. And then when you don't get it, then what happens? It's really upsetting. And so then I focused on my older son, which me and him have such a healthy relationship. Like the conversations we have, I feel bad for him because he even tells me, Mom lets Tyler do what he wants, and she's always hard on me. And that's partly because I feel that I've had a greater connection with my oldest, and we've been able to have honest conversations. And when I've quote unquote grounded him in the past, I always would give him a piece of paper and say, "Hey, first sit and think, go through your thoughts and think about your actions, and then write, and let's talk about things." And sometimes I'll even admit, hey, well, I was a little hard on you. But then sometimes he'll come to the conclusion that, hey, Dad, straight up, yeah, I wasn't being respectful. I wasn't doing what was expected of me. Whereas my youngest, we had this whole conversation about the Ten Commandments the other day because he's gotten super religious. which can be a good thing if the message isn't lost. Um, but he said, I just, I live a good life, Dad. I just follow the Ten Commandments, and I do my schoolwork. I was like, because we're having a good conversation, I didn't go too deep and call him out on it, but straight up, I even said to him, Tyler, do you really think you honor your mother and father? He's like, yeah, Dad, I think you're cool. And I'm like, yeah, but when I ask you to do something and you say, no, I don't want to do it, that's not really honoring your father. How are you honoring me? And that's the part that I am challenged with, because that behavior, that following, your elders, respecting your elders, is a behavior that I don't believe it's being instilled currently in the household. And anytime I even mention like my perspective, I get shut down and the conversations go nowhere. And for the past couple of weeks, it's been pretty good. I'm at least getting texts back and forth. For almost a year, zero communication. And I go out of my way to just to give you some insight. I would send texts all the time to the family. Good morning, everyone, not just boys. How's everyone doing today? You know, crickets. My son Logan will reply once in a while. Tyler would reply a little bit here and there in the beginning, but it's it's now the only time, and I've called him out in the past couple months twice, because I throw things out there and try to communicate with them, and there's no response. But then I don't know where. Hey, Dad, the internet's not working or something. Can I get this? I was like, oh, hey, how you doing, bud? Nice to hear from you. And we've turned into you know, I'm just that guy that does stuff for people, and it hurts. It hurts a lot, because I can show you photos and videos of everything that I've done for my family unselfishly, driving the boys to events and coming up with ideas to better them, meaning giving them different experiences. And straight up, my son Logan the other day said, Dad, I miss you being around, because we had more fun. We did things. They don't do anything now. They play video games, and I don't know, like, it's just, it's really sad. And I thought my spouse would want both boys to be with me, A, to give her a bit of a break, but B, so we can honor that connection between child and father. And she, she doesn't want to stick with the agreement. And then in addition to that, she goes, don't worry, I have plans. We're going to go have fun. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. But, my youngest really expressed he wants to work this summer. He's like, Mom, I really want to work. I want to work. And I brought that up too. And she goes, just respect my decision. And I'm thinking, the kid's going to be sitting home playing video games all day long. What kind of life is that? And so I try to put myself in her point of view. And the only thing I can think of is that, A, she doesn't want to be all alone all summer long, And so if she had both boys go away, then she'd be all by herself all summer long. Which, hey, that's me been the whole year. And it's like, that's life sometimes, right? When you go through a separation, divorce. But then him not being able to work when he wants to work, she's like, oh, he's got swim lessons. I'm like, yeah, but swim lessons in the morning, then he can work in the afternoon. Oh, we're going away. Yeah, but straight up, you're not going away every weekend. And when I was a kid, I had a part-time job. You float around. You make your schedule requests. Hey, I got to go out of town or do this. And that's why it's a part-time job. So there's something else going on. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where I don't know if, without a lawyer battle, which I really don't want to get into, I don't see this thing getting resolved. And even with a lawyer battle, it's not going to get resolved, because it's going to be just this whole thing where lawyers just want to, in my opinion, they want to make the money, and if they want to get things resolved, then we would find peaceful mediation. But there's been none of that. I've suggested that many a times, and she no, just sign papers. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like it's not so cut and dry, especially with our situation. And you've been unwilling to budge so far. So how does signing papers do anything different than that? Because straight up, we've had agreements in the past, and sadly, they haven't been honored and respected. So I know they turned this into a whole different type of episode, and to be honest with you, I know there's gonna be a lot of judgment, and I'm fine with that because I know in my heart and soul I'm doing the best I can with what I got, and I ain't got a lot right now. I have my positive mind, my good attitude, and my love for my family, and I mean all of them, the three of them, not just the two boys, but the separated spouse. And I pray and I pray and I pray that she can find some sort of peaceful middle ground. But I'm gonna do one thing, and I said I wasn't gonna drag in the movie. I wrote a song for our wedding, and musically I had the 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 first verse, and then I just totally got stuck. For years, I just couldn't write it. Something just, I don't know, it just. And then a couple of years later, maybe many years later, I said to her, I think maybe we're supposed to write this together. And back in the beginning, when we were first dating, she would write music with me. I have beautifully recorded stuff with her, and she didn't want a part of that. So I'm going to read you the lyrics to the song. It's called I Do. And it's in my movie because straight up, and this was even before we went through our separation. I saw it with friends and family members that went through divorce that, man, straight up, it's really an ugly thing, especially when it's not peaceful. And we promised ourselves we would never do that, never have it like that. And as much as I'm honoring that, the other party is not honoring that and not doing their best to make it peaceful, trying to see another point of view. So the song is called I Do. The lyrics go, "Oh no, another rainy wedding day," my bride said, as tears rolled down her lovely face. I said, "You know I love you with all of my heart. I do are more than just words we say. It's the rest of our lives." And that was the part that was written before we got married. Then I remember sitting in my favorite meditation space, just praying to God that we could find some sort of peace and mutual agreement, whether it be separation or fixing things. And it goes, "Now I sit alone on a sandy shore, wondering how we have fallen so far out of love. Were we never in love, just two lonely souls passing by, like ships in the darkness of night? A fleeting moment gone too far?" The time has come to realize our love's evolved, yet the pain remains of a failure to unite. I begged and pleaded for what's right for our kids. Now it's up to you to decide. It affects more than our lives. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's how I feel. I feel that I was the sperm and the egg wins. You know, a night of passion is and love is trumped by the woman's right, and it's like there's another aspect to that. I truly feel, yes, a mom could raise the kid and then come out fine and healthy. That's not what I'm saying. This is that battle. I'm saying that when there is a dad that's doing what they feel is right for the kids, and the other parent doesn't want to meet in the middle way and just only wants to see their way, that to me is sad, because there's three sides to every story, and I really, really wish we could find middle ground. And right now. I'm just on the outside looking in as I can see my boys, they need me in their life. I just I see them missing me. Even my son Tyler's like, Dad, I want to spend time with you. But then when it came to it, I think it's if you ask someone and you project onto them what your feelings are, of course they're going to be like, yeah, I'm good. Because as kids, what are they going to say? When I was a kid, I love my video game time. I love watching my TVs and listening to music. And if it was like, hey, do you want to go on a road trip and go see the grandparents? I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to just hang out here and chillax. But, it was no offense to my grandparents, but as a kid, we maybe we're conditioned to seek pleasure as opposed to, seek, peace and balance. And that's something that I've done my best as I feel like I'm evolving to see others' point of views and find middle ground. But from one mountain to another, Mount Adam, Mount Eve, I'm in the Valley of Lost Souls right now. So, hey, thanks for finding me in this podcast. I guess the question of the day, this is an easy one. How do you, and this is the question I've asked my separated spouse for years. How do you come to an agreement when the other person doesn't see things the same way? And it's one of those things that it's not like I can come up with some solutions, but once again, if the other person isn't having solutions of how to come to agreement, then it's like, oh, you're telling me what to do. I'm like, well, no, the ball's in your court. What's your solution? And there was never any. The only solution was, well, we'll talk to a counselor. They'll tell us what to do. Counselors aren't like doctors per se. There's some things that they will say, hey, this needs to happen, because they'll see like red flags and stuff like that. Like what happened with our youngest, where, hey, we got to raise him. We got to guide him, not just let him do what he wants. But when it comes to, philosophical, like parenting decisions, it's something that you have to come to agreement on. So it's hard to come to, let's agree to disagree. And I just want to be peaceful and free. And this is really taking a toll on my heart, mind, body, and soul. So pray for me and my family, because it's not just about me, because I know she's going through stuff too. And I pray that she can see things from my point of view, because I have no ill feelings towards her. I know she's a great person, even though we're having opportunities in our relationship right now. So, question of the day is, how do you come to agreement when facing differences of opinion? And the poll of the day is, what's the good poll of the day? What's more important? Is it being right or being at peace? And, this is kind of a loaded question. But please answer this honestly, if you're going to answer it. You could always, get onto the poll question by going to Spotify.com or using the Spotify app. And you could always call or text the Cool Line at 650-383-7469. This is Gianni, and you're listening to you've listened, if you made it this far, to the Who the Heaven Is I podcast. Have a great today and a pleasant tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.